Hi, this is Khalil Guliwala, host of BIPOC Manager Podcast. And today's episode, I'm very excited to have Omid Razavi with us. Omid is a marketing communication specialist with a background developing advocacy and awareness campaigns for nonprofit organizations. Over the years, he has led communications and strategic brand development for several organizations, including Kids Help Phone, Flag Canada, Swim, Drink, Fish, and the University of Toronto's Rotman School of Management Institute for Gender and Economy. Today, he's proud to serve as the executive director of It Gets Better Canada, a national charity focused on empowering and uplifting two SLGBTQ plus youth. He's also the author of a pop-up book, Let Me Out, a pop-up book about coming out. Omid, I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite. Very pleased to be here.
Thank you so much for being Omid. You've spoken about how sort of your path to entrepreneurship started with sort of working in your family business at a young age. You mentioned how being gay ignited your sense of being an entrepreneur. That being gay added an element of problem solving, being resilient, trying to resell yourself in the world and create your brand. Can you talk a bit more about that, please?
Yeah, I come from a household of first generation immigrants from Iran. My parents came here in the late 70s, right before the revolution occurred. And my father was just determined to, you know, make that foundation within this country through an entrepreneurial mindset. And it's what I was raised on, just being able to leverage opportunities that are brought to you and continue to grow and expand and really lead with an understanding of what you can do, so that you're never dismissing opportunities and you're always on a path for growth. So that was just always our household. That was our conversations that were had. And it was a Muslim household as well. So growing up with an understanding that very early on that I was gay within a Muslim household in Ottawa, which at the time was a fairly conservative city, I had to wear a few hats. And one also required me to always assess who I was, how I was coming out off before I came out, and ensuring, I understood my surroundings. I always understood that, I was in a safe space. I was not exposing myself for being queer. So it always allowed for me to better assess the room, the people involved, how people interact with what I'm offering. And I think in a way, just having that instinctual set of reactions, or just sort of that like coat of arms on you at all times, really did lend itself to an understanding of what an entrepreneurial mindset would work best for me, so that if I was going to pursue anything with an entrepreneurial mindset, I'm assessing how people are going to react. I'm assessing how it's going to be invited in. Am I entering in with the best considerations in mind? Not sure if I'm rambling on or not, but yeah, I mean, I think having having access to both, juggling a queer Muslim mindset, had me wearing a few different hats, where again I was entering every room with an ability to just read how people wanted to engage with me or invite what I was offering. And if it's not what they wanted, how do I pivot? How do I shift? I think I'd have to lend a lot of that to the familial household that I was brought up in.
Yeah. No, I hear that because it's something that's come up again with a lot of different, and minority is such a broad term for actually what could be majority, but the idea where you're always kind of trying to like look for the angles, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
gender based on culture, based on language, you're trying to understand it's almost a sense of like impression management. How am I being perceived? And when you have
Absolutely.
intersectionality, you're kind of playing the, playing with you're kind of playing off these different things and saying what is like these each of these hats have perceptions, and you're playing off the different perceptions of each hat. And it's kind of like what you turn up, what you turn down. And it's a superpower, but I also imagine it's also like, for me, it's been exhausting sometimes, right? Having to kind of move those different spheres.
It is absolutely exhausting. And then when you find that safe space where you don't want to be wearing those hats and you don't have to be wearing those hats, especially in your like later adulthood, that's where you really realize where you want to be. You want to be able to be like, I know this sounds horrible, but just coast. You want to be able to just live freely and not have to assess what is around you. It's a great skill to um, have as a foundation, but the ultimate goal is to work towards a position where you don't have to second guess everything that you're bringing to the table, and it all just amalgamates into each other.
Yeah. Yeah, like for me, it's like, so that's one of the terms I use. Like you can just kind of be yourself. You don't have to.
Mhm.
Energy isn't going to constantly. It's almost like when they talk about what someone leads to burnout is just constantly having to be in a state of vigilance, right? I mean, you can drop that energy that's constantly going outwards. The energy can kind of go inwards, right? And you can say you can just kind of coast and you can just show up in a room without having to constantly scan for threats and scan
Mhm.
responding to stuff. So it's there.
Yeah, I mean it's a reality for many people with multiple identities or marginalized identities. For myself, it wasn't really until I moved from Ottawa to Toronto where I saw that a lot more identities were celebrated, a lot more. There was a lot more access to various cultures, um, various venues to recognize gender identities as well as sexual orientation, and I was like just so taken aback. And I think from that access, I was able to really also better understand who I was and who I wanted to be. So highly recommend, if you're ever in a state where you are second guessing, or you don't have the access to openly live the way that you want, like if it's an opportunity, if it is within your privilege to move and see what you can have better access to.
Yeah, I mean, one question I ask you is in terms of your career profession, I'm sure it might be situations where you face bias and prejudice. Can you talk maybe sort of how you've maybe encountered that in the past and how maybe you would handle those situations today?
Yeah, I mean, when I do encounter them in professional experience, if somebody top of mind is questioning the usage of pronouns and why it's so important, I immediately tend to my immediate reactions to go on the defensive, and I'm that 17-year-old boy who is afraid of being outed in a room, and I have to calm down and recognize that there is a conversation happening because the other person hopefully wants to expand their understandings as well. This is not territory that they have been familiarized with the same way that I have. I mean, this is my day to day. I'm blessed to be able to work with queer youth who are really leading the charge. They're teaching me day to day what best practices are. So it's a matter of me taking a step back, recognizing that I've had years of an understanding in an environment that I have been able to put myself in willingly, and reframe it that I hopefully can introduce a lot of these considerations that have not been set forth for people who are questioning things like the use of pronouns, the use of introducing sexual and gender identities within schools and curriculums. I also think about instances 10, 15 years ago where I was in a boardroom and slurs were said, statements were said that were offensive, and I didn't speak up. And these were instances where the person who made these statements probably didn't second guess it and probably not even thinking about it today. Whereas I, 10 to 15 years later, still think about that. And I really wish that I had spoken up at the time, and worked towards creating that safe space. So, I mean, I think that's also a big reason as to why I did make a shift from marketing from a for-profit to nonprofit sector. I think I just really wanted to surround myself with what I'm hoping on as a collective, as a larger collective, it's a much more progressive mindset.
Before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to maybe share, a message you'd like to give to listeners?
Um, Yeah, I mean, it just again continuing the fact that we're all learning. There's a lot of identities to be celebrated, especially within the BIPOC community. And I'm really privileged day to day to be able to have a platform where I can lend this platform to youth voices who share their messages. I remember being at a school talk a few years ago, and I didn't feel like there was a lot of engagement happening. And at the end of the, I get a lot of interest from the students, just because students now, it's tough to keep their attention. You know, half of them were on their phones. I remember one student in particular, because they heard my story of coming out and struggling as a Muslim queer child. They asked me what advice I would give for somebody wanting to come out within a queer household. And I was just so taken aback that I'm able to offer that advice, that my identity resonated with them. Um, it was a real circle moment for me in terms of what I said, and what I would say for anybody listening who's still questioning at any age. Um, it gets better. We all working towards a day where hopefully no one is marginalized because of their sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression. But the hope is that first and foremost, you have a community that you can lean on, that you prioritize your safety first. But also just from personal experience, the reactions that you get will be varied, but hopefully ultimately your community, your family want the best for you. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of time for them to learn these new understandings of what that means.
Thanks, Mr. Omid. And if someone wants to get in touch with you or know more about you, what's the best way they could do that?
Well, definitely for It Gets Better Canada, our socials are at itgetsbettercanada.org. I mean, myself, Twitter is probably the best way. And yeah, happy to share you my Twitter handle. I think it's at ORAZA050. That's probably the best way to follow me.
Thank you so much for being a guest today, Omid.
Thank you so much.